Hello, everybody. Hey, Vegas. We're back with Vegas Pulse, stories from the back of the house. I have a very special guest today. We're going to have fun speaking with her. Her name is Emily Connor Cooper. Emily Connor Cooper is a producer, a writer, a director, direct from Broadway, direct from New York City, and now a very welcome Las Vegan. Emily was married to the great comedian, very classic comedian, a guy that everybody loved, Mr. Pat Cooper. I know when I was growing up as a child, when we were, and I don't want to date you, Emily, I know you're a young lady, but when I was growing up, that was the album we played at any of our dinners, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all us Italians would get together, and Pat Cooper's album, what is it, Our Hero?
Our Hero.
Would be what was on the Victrola. How about that word?
And I've heard that story a million times.
A million times.
Yeah.
I think it happened all over Long Island.
Yeah, and on the stoops of New York.
And he became very, very, very famous with that, and many more albums after that. But this is about you. First of all, happy birthday. We see it on your dress. Happy birthday to you.
As hard as it is to face new birthdays, I'm just glad I'm having another one.
Before we talk about Pat Cooper and your life with him, tell us a little bit about Emily Connor. Where'd you come from, and what are some of your accomplishments?
Well, I was born in Texas. I lived there for most of, or actually not now, but I was in Texas for school until I moved to Florida for a short time, but found my way to New York at 1997. I just wanted to live in New York. I literally packed my bags and moved there and never looked back. And I finished my degree there at NYU, and I did a lot while I was there. I got down my bucket list once, at least, maybe twice. I did everything I wanted to do there, including, I graduated from NYU in media studies, and I worked in show business at the different networks, NBC, CBS, but I also ended up creating my own production company, and I worked on shows on Broadway, which I loved.
And now you have a television show right here at Hey Vegas TV.
I do,
Tell us
yes.
a little bit about Legends and Laughs.
Well, I was approached with this idea to do this show, which I love. The idea and the concept is to embrace yesterday of Las Vegas, because I'm extremely passionate about old Vegas and the old era of the Rat Pack. And, I actually learned a lot about it through Pat Cooper, of course. But it's also important for us to embrace the new Las Vegas. And it's a fascinating city. It's got amazing history. The history here is very important and significant in terms of the history of our country, too. And I think a lot of people don't really realize that. And it's not a place where, when I first told people I was leaving New York, my job at the time, at the Monday morning meeting, it was announced by the CFO of the company that Emily was leaving the firm and moving to Las Vegas. There were gasps around the room because people don't always understand that people really live here, and they've lived here for a long time.
We all don't live in hotel rooms. People think that sometimes.
Right. We don't all live in hotel rooms, and we don't gamble for a living, right? And the joke was that I was going to become a blackjack dealer, but I just wanted to come to the desert. I've always loved the town anyway, and I knew there was a lot of entertainment opportunity for me as a producer, too, here. So I told Pat about it. And, of course, Pat had lived here for 35 years, since 1970, until his wife, Patty, died in 2005. He moved to Florida for a while, and then he went back to New York, where he claimed he was going to die in New York and be transferred to Las Vegas to be buried. And this was this story that he had for a long time. That was his plan until we became close, and that's the whole story. But he ended up coming out here with me because I said, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm finished in New York after 21 years, and I was ready to start a new life and retire from.
Well, I'm going to ask you in just a minute. I'm going to take a break right now, but in just a minute, I'm going to ask you what it's like to live with a crazy comedian who I loved. I thought he was one of the best. And we want to hear some back of the house stuff about that, okay?
Sure.
We'll be right back here on Vegas Pulse. Stories from the back of the house with my great guest today, Emily Connor Cooper. Be right back. Vegas Pulse, stories from the back of the house with me, Ron Garrett, your host. I'm a Vegas insider, been around for over 54 years here, and I know a lot what's going on, but I never was married to a comedian, female or male, let's put it that way, just for laughs. But is that strange? Is he on? Was he on all the time?
For the most part, yes, he was. He was always Pat Cooper. And I tease people, I say that no one was really safe from the wrath of Pat Cooper, right? Not even me, especially not me. But I guess Tom Cantone Tom Cantone is the entertainment director at Mohegan Sun. He said it best. He said, "Emily, you really do have a ringside seat to the greatest show on earth." And Pat is an exciting person. He was an exciting person, and I'd known him for a really long time. And I never planned to get married. I really never wanted to get married because I was afraid of divorce and afraid of being bored. And I knew with Pat, I wouldn't have to worry about either one, right? So
Certainly you wouldn't be bored.
no. And he was older, but he was young at heart, and I'm an old soul. I knew all the music, he listened to, and all the characters and the movie stars and the singers that he told me about who he performed with. We listened to Seriously Sinatra every day in the car. That's all we really ever listened to. Once in a while, I'd change it over to yacht rock or something, and we'd switch it right back because I love that. But it was a very special. It was a very special 5 years of my life living with him, married to him here. It was every day. He was very entertaining, driving around the town in the car, telling stories. But Pat had an interesting and different point of view on life, which most comedians do, including Shecky. Shecky was the same way.
They were friends, Shecky and Pat. They were good friends.
Yes, they were. And we spent a lot of time with Shecky and Marie in the end, and they were really good to me when Pat died. Shecky died like 6 months after Pat, but it was really a special time for me to get to spend with them. In fact, my 50th birthday was right in the middle of COVID, and I spent my birthday morning at Shecky's house with Pat and Marie, and she put a candle and a bagel for me. I mean, that was my 50th birthday because nothing was open, But being with Pat Cooper every day was very interesting, and people don't understand really the kind of guy he was. He was known later in life as the angry comedian, but he was extremely sensitive and extremely kind and generous. In fact, recently I ran into the Mayor Berkeley at an event, and she was so sweet. She started telling me about a story about Pat when she worked as a cocktail waitress at the Golden Steer.
Oh.
She said there was one night when I was there, and I was really bummed because I had had no business all day, and Pat was there, and he asked her, what's the matter? And she told him, she said, I just haven't had any customers. I've made no money today. So he gave her $100.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's how he was, though. He did that a lot. That made him feel good to do that to strangers or whoever. But she said she saw him many years later, and she told him the story, and he said, of course, he said, well, I want it back. That was him. But he made people laugh all the time. That's what he needed. He needed that fix of, the
Was it like fuel in the gas tank? He needed to be filled up all the time. He needed to make people laugh.
That's exactly what it was.
Did he wake up funny in the morning?
Well, in the mornings, I didn't know what I was going to get that day.
There were several Pats out there. Yeah,
it was exciting because, and like I said, I never wanted to be bored, right? There was never a dull moment with him. But he was very sweet. He was very good to me. And he really was my best friend. We had a lot of fun here in Vegas. We got here in 2018, and then, so we were here for about a year and a half before COVID. We did a lot. We went to many shows. He was able to reconnect with old friends who he never thought he'd see again. We were going out to dinner. He loved to go out to dinner every single night, which was exhausting for me, but it was fun for him, and he had an audience. Whether it was a doctor's office and kids at the store, he just made people laugh all the time.
Everywhere he went, he started cracking people up.
Yeah, he really did.
Now, you said he was known as an angry comedian. I know towards the last few years at the Italian American Club, I would hear him yelling a lot, but it was always a funny yell, and it made me laugh all the time. Did he ever get angry with you?
Yes, well, I can tell you one of the reasons that he yelled a lot was because he was hearing impaired.
Oh,
We did get some really good hearing aids for him. All those years of the loud bands and who knows, the screaming in the Italian family probably uh, did some damage, but that was partially because he's look he's used to he was used to yelling his entire life. He was always yelling, you know. But it was always for the most part in public. It was not a mean yell, but with me, yeah, we would get into little normal altercations that any couples would, and he would say to me, "I'm gonna call you mother. I'm gonna call you sister," and then he would, you know, he'd call them. And they're like, "Oh God, Pat's calling again." You know, I'm gonna tell him what you're doing. You know, it was harmless. I
have
mean,
you had famous people over for dinner because of his relationship with all the stars?
the answer to that is actually no, and the reason is because Pat did not like to go to people's homes for dinner, nor did he want to have people over. He didn't like messing up the kitchen. He didn't want work for me or anyone else. He liked taking people out to dinner. That was his
Ah.
thing. So yes, we went out with a lot of people. You know who he loved here, and they were mutually friends for I guess a long time. Jimmy Walker, and Jimmy Walker was really
The other
sweet.
comedian, Jimmy J.J. Walker, the comedian.
Yeah, Jimmy Walker. Uh, but Shecky, we went out to dinner with them. We went to the Bootlegger one night. A lot of people. And then we ran into Frankie Avalon, who I'm going to see this weekend at his show at South Point. Frankie, we ran into him at one night at the Italian American Club. It was the first time they had seen each other for probably 30 years. It was so exciting. So, no, we went out with celebrities. You know, I mean, it's people from the business, you know.
How did Pat feel about being in show business? Was it something he always wanted to do? Did he didn't stumble into it. He must have been funny when he was a kid and entertaining the family in the living room like we all
He
did.
did that at the dinner table, which his parents couldn't stand. Like he said, if you're not an opera singer, you're nothing, you know. But in the Jewish community, if you're funny, another Milton Boyle, you know. But he would stand out on the corner of his neighborhood in Brooklyn and entertain the kids. He did it, you know, all through his childhood. But no, it drove his parents crazy that he would be a wise guy at the, you know, dinner table, a clown, a buffoon. You know, he said his father hated it, and he got, you know,
Was he
reprimanded.
reprimanded for
Oh,
that?
sure,
Yeah.
yeah. But that was what he was born to do. And that was just what he wasn't thinking about being in show business. He just did it. And he ended up at the Copa being, I think he had more performances at the Copa. He performed there 8 times, more than any other comedian. But he was just born to
He was
do
a
it.
headliner here in Las Vegas.
A lot. He
A
played
lot. Who did he open for, and who did he do it all by himself?
well, he opened for many people, but he and Sergio Franchi did many shows together. And they were sort of on their way to be like the next Martin and Lewis. And he would tell the funny story about that because they just had great chemistry and they were breaking each other's chops all the time. But when they brought that up about, it came up with the managers or something that they were going to try to do this Martin and Lewis type of thing. And Sergio says, well, of course, I'm going to be Dean Martin. And, you know, Pat's like, yes, you're going to be Dean Martin. So Sergio was a big one. But he opened for, you know, Roger Miller.
Oh, just about every
Just,
big star.
Well, and at all the hotels.
All the hotels.
Yeah.
I remember seeing, because I used to cruise up and down the Las Vegas Strip in the old days where all the stars were out on the marquees.
Sure. Oh,
And
yeah.
we'd go, so who's in town? So you go up and down the Strip, and there's only maybe 10 hotels at that time that had a first-line entertainers like Pat.
Yeah.
And that's how we'd find out. I got to go to a break right now, but I want to mention this before I go to a break. One of Pat's good friends was Nelson Sardelli. When we come back, we'll talk about your TV show and your first guest, Nelson Sardelli, okay?
Okay.
We'll be right back with more on Vegas Pulse, stories from the back of the house, right here on Hey Vegas TV. Vegas Pulse on Hey Vegas TV, and my guest today is Emily Connor Cooper. Emily, we've been talking about your famous husband. Unfortunately, it's the late great Pat Cooper. In depth here, and it's a lot of fun to hear about that. But your new television show here on Hey Vegas TV is called Legends and Laughs. Why did you want to do that? The show. I know you're going to blame it on me, right? Why did you want to do this show? And also, Pat and Nelson Sardelli were good friends. He's your first guest, and lately there's news.
Well, I wanted to do the show because I love the history and the stories of Old Vegas. But I also, and I'm very passionate about the town, but I also know a lot of Pat's old friends who've been telling me these stories at home or in the car. I said to myself, it'd be nice to get these recorded for posterity, and because these are entertaining people. Barbuti is one of them, obviously, but Nelson Sardelli, he is a close friend. His wife is really one of my best girlfriends here for sure, but Nelson has known Pat. They've been friends for 50 years. So I wanted Nelson as my first guest, which we started recording, a couple months ago, because he's extremely entertaining and a total character. Now, as far as the recent news, I was asked by Nelson's family to please not discuss it at this time.
The recent news is the revelation that Marissa Haggerty,
Mariska Hargitay.
Hargitay, I have to say it right. Thank you. Is actually Nelson is her dad. That he had an affair with Jane Mansfield years ago. It's in the news, and you are close to those people. What is your comment on all that?
I was asked to not comment on it at this time, but Mariska did a wonderful documentary on her mother, my mom Jane, that just premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. But the bigger news is, I don't know if you heard this, that Jonathan Scott dropped a bombshell also. Jonathan Scott, who has a show here at Hey Vegas, is claiming...
Yes, Insomniac TV here at Hey Vegas.
Well, he's claiming that he is actually the illegitimate son of Nelson Sardelli and Ruth Buzzi. Bless her heart. She died in Texas, at her home in Texas. She was wonderful, and it was tough to see her go. But there were plenty other things to discuss about Nelson Sardelli. He's a character and a wonderful guy. When Pat and I moved out here, they really embraced us. Of course, he's known Pat over 50 years. I don't know I think they may have worked together at some point, but they've had me over to their house for Easter, Thanksgiving. In fact, one Thanksgiving, because he's a character and people like him, and he's got stories. He's a Vegas icon. But we were at his house for Thanksgiving, and this is actually since Pat died. They had me over. After dinner, I said, Nelson, why don't we call some people? We're just hanging out, bored, what do we do next? Let's call some people. So we made the first call. We were just going to leave messages, right? We started calling people. The first one was Pat Boone, who's a very close friend of Nelson's. Well, it didn't go to voicemail. Pat picked up the phone. Hey, Nelson, how's it going? Happy Thanksgiving. Then I said, okay, so now let's call Dina Martin. Okay, we called Dina Martin to leave a message. She picked up the phone, too. Mm-hmm. She and John got on there. Hey, Nelson, how you doing? Then I said, okay, how about Jack Jones? So, okay, we're going to leave Jack a message. Jack picks up the phone. Hey, Nelson, how you doing? And he was really nice. He actually said, oh, how's Pat's wife doing? This was, a year before he died. But Nelson, he's something. He's an important character in this town, also in Atlantic City. I mean, he did a lot in Atlantic City. But he's I chose him as my first guest because he is a character. He's funny. And he doesn't get a lot of credit for that, but he is.
Were you aware of this story coming out when you chose him as your first guest?
I don't really want to talk about that because I told them I wouldn't, and I have to honor that. But okay. I know the family well. It's for a later time, maybe, or not. I don't want to focus on that because there's a lot. Nelson is a character in and of himself. It's enough.
Your show with Nelson is going to be released very shortly. And we're all looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And see how that went. But he's very, very much of a Vegas icon, and we all love Nelson Sardelli, especially the guys who hang out at the Italian American Club.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to take a break right now.
Okay.
Come back with our final segment.
Okay.
And I want to talk about all the good things you have coming up and things you want to talk about, okay?
Sure.
We'll be right back here on Vegas Pulse. Stories from the back of the house. And we're getting some back of the house stuff on this show today from the great Emily Connor Cooper, whose new show is going to premiere here on Hey Vegas TV. It's called Legends and Laughs. We'll be right back. My guest is Emily Connor Cooper, who has a new show premiering here on Hey Vegas TV called Legends and Laughs. It's amazing that you've got that show together. What motivated you to do that? And you're looking forward to the beginning of the series.
Oh, absolutely, because it's fun to talk to everybody and hear their stories, because I'm actually hearing some stories on air that I didn't know before.
Uh-huh.
But it'll evolve. There are a lot of people, amazing people who have lined up. I don't want to just talk to the older generation of Las Vegas either. I want to embrace the newer generation and hear their stories of why Vegas and the new Vegas is, why they're passionate about that. But there's a lot of talent in this town. So as much as we love the old Vegas, we have to embrace the new. But I've been doing a lot of legacy work for Pat's legacy without overdoing it. His very first show was in 1963, opening for Bobby Darin, his very first show in Las Vegas at the Flamingo. So last year, we were able to actually restore part of the old Flamingo sign at the Neon Museum in honor of Pat's, it was 60 years since his first show in Vegas, opening for Bobby Darin. It was great. So that's in the Neon Museum. It was completely restored. It was a very exciting event. I'm also, last year we had a paver put down at the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens with his name. They put it right in the front, and all the stars who have lived or been involved lived or are from Brooklyn are in there, including Jackie Gleason and Barbara Streisand, you know, that group. Also, the Italian American Museum, they just reopened it last year. We did their first big event there on Pat's, what would have been Pat's birthday, 95th birthday. And that was quite an amazing, Joe Piscopo helped me host it along with...
Are you working on a star on the Walk of Fame here in Las Vegas?
Yes, that's going to be happening. I'm now on the board of directors.
For Pat, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm on the board of the new Las Vegas Walk of Stars. So I'm working on that. And we have a spot in front of the Flamingo that they have two spots left for. There's one for him and one for Sergio. So we're working on getting both of those.
Sergio Franchi.
Sergio Franchi, yes. And they were really best friends.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm very excited about that project. Pat is ultimately going to be buried in Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn, which is beautiful. It's like a museum, and they have tours in there. So that's getting done right now. So there's a lot on my plate with that. But at a certain point, and I do want to get the street named after him in Brooklyn, too. There's a street we're working on. After that, Pat would be like, enough already. You know, it's over.
Yeah, he didn't like all that publicity.
He didn't. He didn't like the attention. Neither did Sergio. Sergio was the same way. Pictures on the walls in the house, neither one of them liked that. Pat used to say, that was yesterday. That's how he was about it.
Well, your first show is going to premiere probably this coming week, and it's going to be terrific. And your guest is Nelson Sardelli, who happens to be in the news right now. So we encourage everybody to watch the first episode. You never know what Nelson's going to say. Maybe you can find out something behind the scenes in between the sentences.
No, it's good.
Should be good.
It's good. He's a hoot, you know. He really is. So I'm excited.
Thank you very much for being on Vegas Pulse.
Yeah.
Stories from the back of the house. You are a true insider, and that's a good thing. And also, you met Pat at the Friars Club, but we don't have time to go into all that. But that's another great place, the Friars Club. It's so well known.
Oh, it was wonderful. I just wanted to mention, though, people can follow us on @Legends and Laughs on Instagram and Facebook, @Legends and Laughs. My Instagram is @Emily's Las Vegas, and then also @The Pat Cooper. We have all of his legacy stuff, but we put things up there during COVID. I mean, he started that Instagram account, so that's fun to watch. And then my production company, Columbus Circle Productions, is actually a sponsor in a film that's going to premiere Memorial Day weekend at the Beverly, called
Beverly Theater.
The Beverly Theater.
Yes.
This is our city. It's a great little film, and Eric Roberts is going to be in it, along with some other younger up-and-coming actors. So I'm looking forward to that.
Happy birthday again.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much for being my guest on Vegas Pulse. Thank you all for watching, and look for Legends and Laughs coming very soon, within several days, and we'll know exactly pretty quick, here on Hey Vegas TV. Thank you, and see you next time.